RoboCop Rogue City is a 2023 first-person shooter game developed by Teyon and published by Nacon. The game features an original storyline based on the RoboCop films, with Peter Weller reprising his role as the titular character. It was released for PlayStation 5, Windows and Xbox, and received generally positive reviews from critics.
Playing as RoboCop, the player must clear the city of criminals, conduct investigations, and can also give out parking tickets.
The game is set in between the films RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3. Anne Lewis, RoboCop's police partner from the films, accompanies the player. The player is given various side quests throughout the game, and can choose how to solve them, for example by selecting between different dialogue options. The outcome of these quests varies, depending on the player's choices. For instance, the player can choose between using violence or a peaceful approach when seeking information from suspects. The overall storyline and ending are also altered depending on decisions made by the player. RoboCop's public trust score can be built up by interacting with citizens, also affecting gameplay. The player's primary weapon is RoboCop's Auto 9 gun, which has unlimited ammunition.
Drop it, scum.
Weapons dropped by enemies can also be picked up by the player and used for a limited amount of time. Items in the game's environments, such as exploding barrels and television sets, can also be flung around. Due to RoboCop's metal exterior, he takes only minimal damage from gunfire. The player can regenerate, lost health, or use enemies as human shields against gunfire. The player can buy different abilities with experience points gained by completing objectives and collecting crime evidence.
Such abilities include a flashbang shockwave, a shield reducing incoming damage temporarily, or a dash move.
Time can also be slowed down briefly to kill enemies and clear an area faster.
These abilities, as well as the Auto 9, can be upgraded over time.
The player can also use a scanning ability to search for enemies' misdemeanors, such as traffic violations and disorderly conduct. It's a good game, and the most authentic adaptation the series has ever seen. The story itself is nothing groundbreaking. A bad guy who looks like he is fated to be thrown out the top of Nakatomi Plaza in Die Hard is up to no good. You need to stop him. OCP is still an evil corporation, and drug-fueled gangs rule the streets.
If you've ever seen an old-school action movie set in a city, you'll know what to expect.
It's exceptionally violent, as it should be.
Arms and heads explode like pressurized watermelons, bodies tumble and ragdoll all around, and enemies scream about lost limbs.
There are often a lot of enemies on screen at once, and turning them into a shower of crimson is a frequent and entertaining occurrence. It may not be appropriate for all ages, but it's true to the R-rated source material, and here it is ratcheted up to a degree that is humorous and over the top, rather than gratuitous and excessive. There's a decent variety of enemies, including some that can make more than a dent in Robo, like snipers, heavy troops, and infamous big boy, Ed 209, and those present opportunities to get more strategic with your approach than simply charging in and busting heads. You can pick up and use guns dropped by enemies like shotguns and assault rifles, though their ammo is limited, while Auto 9's is not.
You can also grab and throw a lot of things like explosive barrels, motorcycles, and unlucky henchmen, which is as hilarious as it is effective. The wonderfully destructible environment plays a key role in the combat design too. Sometimes it's purely aesthetic, as monitors explode, papers scatter, and shattered cement rains down from damaged structures. Other times it's strategic, as you blast apart the cover your foes are trying to hide behind.
The most exciting is the breach opportunities, pre-designated spots where Robo smashes through doors or compromised walls, and takes the bad guys by surprise, offering you a few seconds of slow motion to take out enemies before they can return fire or shoot their hostages. The appeal to nostalgia is strong, and that can have a significant impact on how much mileage you get out of this.
As a pure shooter, Rogue City isn't overly ambitious, but it's a lot of fun to play, even if you don't know anything about the series.
However, if you grew up with RoboCop or recently watched the movies, then it is chock full of references that add a lot to the experience. Exploding the groin of a baddie is a silly bit of over-the-top violence on its surface, but it's so much more entertaining if you know that it's pulled directly from the film.
At the same time, this isn't the most technically impressive game when held up next to the flashy big-budget adventures we're regularly treated to these days.
Textures are kind of flat, and lighting effects are minimalistic, plus a lot of the gang members' voices are extremely similar to one another, but there's something B-movie quality that makes it more forgivable, if not a bit charming. Still, another coat of polish would have gone a long way, especially in cutscenes where all of those issues are more apparent in close-ups.
More than once I had audio and video get out of sync, had frozen faces accompany dialogue, and had total game crashes on 2 occasions. Other side missions are more expansive and are the sort of contained side stories that feel worth playing on their own merits.
One subplot spanning multiple quests has you helping to reform a drug addict turned informant.
Seemingly mundane things like helping him return a watch he stole or picking out a VHS tape from a video store are poignant palate cleansers from the brutal action sequences, though there are certainly a few good shootouts along the way. Completing all the side quests and main story may took you just over 17 hours, a pretty solid runtime for a single-player-only campaign. A simple leveling system does a good job of offering a basic sense of progression as you go, feeding skill points into things like increasing damage resistance or extending the slow-motion timeframes, as well as some non-combat skills that open up new dialogue options or allow you to open saves.
Every few upgrades spent on a particular skill add a perk, like a rapid dash maneuver or armor, that reflects small arms fire back at enemies. Finding bits of evidence scattered around reading notes and completing bonus objectives are good sources of XP, giving a nice incentive to go off the beaten path in the open areas.
RoboCop Rogue City is a pitch-perfect throwback to the action movies of the 80s.
It's over-the-top violence with charm, largely well put together, but rough on the edges.
Most importantly, it's a fun way to spend time in a beloved fictional universe that doesn't overstay its welcome.
Blasting at goons as an unstoppable walking machine remains as extremely entertaining as it seemed on the big screen, thanks in part to an impressive commitment to capturing the look and feel of the original film. Mixing in elements like routine police work and side quests does a great job changing the pace, too.
Even if it's not the best example of visual fidelity, and prone to some bugs along the way, that love of RoboCop shines through. This is a solid B-movie of a video game, which is exactly what the source material demands.